No optimal rotation helpers or renaming casts on nameplates. Specific details on add-on removal philosophy. Oh, you can't rename the cast. Well, this makes sense. Renaming the casts, it does make sense because as we've seen in FF14, part of the challenge is remembering what the different casts do, like starboard, larboard. You know, that's classic example of that. Where if you don't know, very quick reminder of the situation was once upon a time in Final Fantasy XIV, we had a raid boss that would do a lethal attack off of his right side or his left side. And it was called starboard or larboard on the cast bar. And that meant everybody had to learn the difference between starboard and larboard. And we eventually, you know, it was something that everyone struggled with. Which one means right, which one means left. And this added to the difficulty of the encounter. We later found out that the dev who named it starboard and larboard in English localization got in trouble with Yoshi P. Got in trouble for doing that naming because it wasn't immediately apparent if it's right side or left side, and it introduced another moment of you having to figure that out, like another moment of difficulty that was not intended. And he said that he was actually worried he would lose his job at the time because he had introduced a layer of difficulty through the naming that he wasn't supposed to. Now, of course, in FF14, it's a very different, very different world where they actually map out exactly how many seconds they expect it will take you to figure out a mechanic. So even adding in 2 seconds to figuring out starboard and larboard is serious business for them. But that's why, you know, this is an important discussion to have around making things how does something like renaming casts relate to the difficulty of you resolving a mechanic on your own, which is all at the center of the add-on removal philosophy that they have here. Optimal rotation helpers. Now, we knew that this was going away. That's the reason that we got the one button mode and the highlight assist. However, I would say highlight assist is worse than Heckly because Heckly shows you the next couple of buttons to press, which I think is more helpful to people who are trying to learn what to do overall than just suggesting the next one. I think it's harder for someone new to identify the pattern from just being told what's the next button instead of being told here's the next few buttons. I think it makes it easier to identify patterns if you're new that way. But hopefully, okay, this is a lot. I don't need to read all this. But will players be shut out of content they enjoy? That's actually a good question. Right. I actually think this is a good point. They're not making the add-on changes in a vacuum. They're being paired with significant changes to our combat and encounters as well. This is both a thing that gives me hope and it makes me concerned at the same time. Okay, that's a good thing, but it's also a really terrible thing. It's good because you need all those things to be happening together. How can someone figure out the rotation if they feel like it's way too complicated? How can someone figure out the encounter if it's just way too complicated? You don't give them the visual cues that they need. But then it's terrible because you're giving yourself a gigantic amount of work to make it all work. You are putting an unbelievable pressure on your dev team to do it all. Like, don't just fix add-ons. Don't just fix our UI. Also totally overhaul combat and encounters and job design. Yeah. And it all has to be totally fundamentally different philosophically. That's a tall order to do within a year. as well. I wish you would have given yourselves more time to do this in a more iterative fashion, but you're not. And so, guess what? It's gonna be pretty messy, I imagine, before it gets nice and clean. I think that the growing pains at the beginning of midnight might be pretty serious. Indeed.